When people look at Jimmy Donaldson today, they see a factory. They see a multi-billion-dollar machine with hundreds of employees, massive sound stages, and a subscriber count that defies human logic. They see MrBeast, the larger-than-life figure who gives away islands, builds hundreds of wells, and buys entire neighborhoods. But to understand the hyper-focused mind behind the screen, one has to look past the neon thumbnails and the loud, high-energy intros. Before he was a global brand, Jimmy Donaldson was a ghost. He was just an awkward, hyper-focused kid from Greenville, North Carolina, sitting in a dark room, staring at a laptop screen until his eyes turned bloodshot. This is the story of how a teenager with a chronic medical diagnosis and an unhealthy obsession systematically reverse-engineered modern media, broke his own boundaries to entertain the world, and what happens when an ordinary person finally gets exactly what they spent their entire life chasing. Jimmy Donaldson did not grow up with a silver spoon. He grew up with a camera and a dial-up connection. Born in Wichita, Kansas in 1998, his formative years unfolded in Greenville, North Carolina. His parents were military veterans, ensuring a household run with structure and discipline. However, after their divorce in 2007, the family dynamic shifted dramatically. His mother worked punishing 12-hour shifts just to keep them afloat, meaning Jimmy and his brother, CJ, spent a vast amount of time left to their own devices. As a child, Jimmy was quiet, standing at a gangly 6'5" by high school. He found solace in sports, playing baseball and basketball. But at 15, his physical world shattered. He was hit with severe stomach pain, rapid weight loss, and chronic fatigue, eventually diagnosed as Crohn's disease. He lost 50 pounds in a matter of months. He couldn't play sports anymore. He could barely eat. When a teenager's physical world shrinks to the size of a bedroom, the digital world often becomes their universe. On the 19th of February 2012, at just 13 years old, Jimmy created a YouTube channel. The name MrBeast wasn't some deeply calculated marketing strategy. He was simply logging into Xbox Live, and the system randomly generated the gamertag MrBeast6000. He liked it, so he took it. His early videos were objectively terrible. Armed with an old laptop, a cheap microphone, and absolutely no natural charisma, Jimmy uploaded Minecraft and Call of Duty Let's Plays. He recorded videos analyzing how much money top creators like PewDiePie made, treating their earnings like sacred texts. He screamed into the digital void, pulling in maybe 4 or 5 views a video, half of them being himself refreshing the page. But he didn't care. He became so utterly consumed by the platform that it resembled a sickness. While other kids went to parties, Jimmy analyzed why a certain thumbnail made someone click, or why a retention graph dipped at the 2-minute mark. By 2016, Jimmy graduated from Greenville Christian Academy. His mother, wanting a stable, normal life for her son, pushed him to enroll at East Carolina University. He tried to conform, but sitting in those lecture halls felt like being trapped in a coffin. He lasted exactly 2 weeks. Instead of going to class, Jimmy sat in his car in the university parking lot, editing videos. When his mother discovered he had dropped out, she was heartbroken and furious. She gave him an ultimatum: get a real job, go to college, or pack your bags. He chose his bags. Jimmy left home with no safety net, a tiny bank account, and a mountain of stubbornness. That was the year everything changed. Moving into a small apartment, he formed what can only be described as a hyper-obsessed, algorithmic think tank with 4 of his friends: Chris, Chandler, Garrett, and Eric. They were broke, but they had time. For months, they did nothing but study YouTube. They jumped on Skype calls that lasted 10 to 12 hours a day, analyzing the daily uploads of the top creators on Earth. They looked at the first 10 seconds of 1,000 videos to see how hooks worked. They mapped out pacing, color theory, and thumbnails and title length. They didn't just want to make videos, they wanted to reverse engineer virality. Then came January 2017. Jimmy realized that if the algorithm favored watch time and sheer human willpower, he had to give it something undeniable. He sat down in his chair, turned on his camera, and started counting. He didn't stop. He didn't leave the room. It took him over 40 hours of continuous, mind-numbing repetition. His brain felt like mush, his eyes burned, and by the time he hit 100,000, he looked like a shell of a human being. He edited the grueling footage down to a 24-hour video and hit upload. The video exploded. Millions of views accumulated in a matter of days. For the first time, the world wasn't just passing by his channel, they were stopping to look. He followed it up by watching paint dry for an hour, spinning a fidget spinner for 24 hours, and trying to break glass with megaphones. He became the internet's junk lord, the guy willing to endure physical torture for the viewer's entertainment. However, doing stunts where he just sat around wasn't sustainable. The real turning point arrived when Jimmy landed his first major brand deal, $10,000. Most teenagers receiving a five-figure check would buy a car, pay off debt, or move into a nicer apartment. But Jimmy had a theory. He took that $10,000 cash, drove around Greenville, and handed it directly to a homeless man. He filmed the reaction, the raw, unfiltered shock of someone having their life altered in a second. He put that video online, and it didn't just get views, it created a blueprint. That was the birth of the MrBeast business model, a concept that traditional media executives still view with skepticism, the 100% reinvestment strategy. Every single dollar Jimmy made from AdSense and sponsorships didn't go into a savings account or a mansion. It went straight back into the next video. If a video made $20,000, the next video had a $20,000 budget. If it made $100,000, he gave away $100,000. He realized that money wasn't something to accumulate, it was a tool to buy bigger spectacles, higher stakes, and greater emotional resonance. Suddenly, the channel wasn't just giving away cash, they were giving away entire dealerships of cars, opening free grocery stores, and tipping waitresses gold bars. The crew grew from a few high school buddies to a massive operational team requiring logistics managers, construction workers, safety compliance officers, and accountants. They were building a studio system from scratch in North Carolina, completely removed from the Hollywood ecosystem. By 2021, the scale of Jimmy's operations reached a point of no return. The team wasn't just making YouTube videos anymore, they were producing full-scale television events. MrBeast had become the manifestation of capitalism, the pinnacle of a broken system. When Netflix's Squid Game became a global phenomenon, Jimmy looked at his team and decided to recreate every single set perfectly in real life. It was a massive gamble, costing roughly $3.5 million to produce and bringing in 456 random players to compete for a $456,000 grand prize. If that video had flopped, it would have financially devastated the company. Instead, it racked up hundreds of millions of views within a single week, rivaling the viewership of major network TV finales. In 2022, he passed PewDiePie as the most subscribed individual creator. And in 2024, he surpassed T-Series to become the #1 most subscribed channel on Earth. But as the numbers climbed, Jimmy started to look outward. If he could mobilize an army of viewers to watch games, could he mobilize them to change the physical world? He launched Team Trees, raising over $24 million to plant 20 million trees. This was followed by Team Seas, pulling 30 million pounds of plastic out of the oceans, and eventually Team Water, generating tens of millions of dollars for global clean water access. Through Beast Philanthropy, his team funded surgeries for 1,000 blind people to see again and built infrastructure in overlooked communities. Yet as the empire grew, so did the weight of the crown. By 2024 and 2026, Beast Industries expanded into a massive consumer goods conglomerate. They launched Feastables, gamifying the chocolate aisle, and partnered to launch Lunchly. They broke into traditional Hollywood with Beast Games on Prime Video, and recently in 2026 acquired the fintech platform Step to teach teenagers financial literacy. But with unprecedented size came intense scrutiny. The transition from a bedroom creator to a corporate executive proved to be the hardest era of Jimmy's life. Navigating workplace allegations, severe production challenges on massive game show sets, and the endless pressure of a 24-hour news cycle forced him to adapt rapidly. When a creator employs hundreds of people and entertains 500 million, the margin for error drops to zero. If you ask industry experts what Jimmy Donaldson's net worth is today, they point to articles calling him YouTube's first billionaire. But the reality behind the scenes remains starkly different from the Hollywood stereotype. He doesn't own yachts, he doesn't buy fleets of sports cars, and he still spends most of his nights sleeping in a modest room at his studio complex. To him, every dollar is just fuel for the next idea. Now, in his late 20s, Jimmy has broken nearly every record the internet has to offer, standing at the absolute summit of digital media. People often wonder what the end game is and when the madness finally stops. The answer, it seems, is that it doesn't. Jimmy Donaldson wants to build a channel so massive, so universally accessible across every language and country, that it changes the very definition of global entertainment. His goal is a legacy where the scale of his philanthropy completely eclipses the scale of his entertainment. When history looks back at the kid from North Carolina, he doesn't want to be remembered simply as the guy who got the most clicks. He wants to be remembered as the person who used a silly video sharing platform to see how much good one human being could possibly do before their time ran out. Today, he has an unbelievably colossal amount of 492 million subscribers. Jimmy Donaldson cracked the algorithm, but for MrBeast, the real challenge is just beginning.